Good afternoon, everyone. This is Natasha Telger with Illinois WorkNet, and today we are going to have a live demonstration of the tools that our programmers have been working on, and they are going to present those to you today. So we have Chris, Ken, and Jerome, who will be walking us through creating a team, creating a training plan, looking at the different dashboards, and looking at the work-based learning and job forecast and openings tools as well. We're going to go through a demo, and so a lot of the resources and how to use these tools we've talked about in several webinars, but please feel free, we know this is new to everyone, so feel free to ask your questions. As you ask your questions, we will collect your questions. If we can answer them right there at the moment, we'll go ahead and do so. Otherwise, we are collecting them so that we can answer them. We're going to start out with just a quick review of the intake process, because we did make some modifications to the tools so that we distinguish between intake and enrolled customers. So the first thing we're going to take a look at, again, we're going to take a look at the intake process. So the first thing a customer does is to complete their application online. And the information, once they complete that application online and submit that application, it's available in your customer list. And you can see we have a new intake tab, I guess you could call it. So that's where you will see your customers. Once you see your customers in that intake area, you can contact them, and then you can go through the process within IWDS. So you search for your ATIM customers, you go through the guided application, and then that information shows up into the ATIM tools and in the intake area under their eligibility section, and you'll see that it has that they are ready to be assigned. This comes from IWDS, and then you'll also see their math, their TABE math and reading scores. At that time, when that information is available and they're ready to be assigned, it unlocks the optional assessment piece where you can enter in those assessments and information, and use that information as with your other team members to determine if this person is eligible for ATIM. So once the team decides if they're eligible, then the local workforce investment area staff person, the case manager, will go in and say that yes or no, this person is eligible, and they set their eligibility. At that point in time, that unlocks the drug test piece, and you can enter in whether they passed, failed, or scheduled their drug test. Once they've once they've passed their drug test, then they go to the random group assignment. Those that are have been identified for entering people into random assignment, they'll be able to access a report, and it will have the information that is needed to enter them into random assignment. Once they've been entered into random assignment, they'll be either assigned to the control group or the treatment group. Those people that are assigned to a treatment group, or if they are a veteran, then they will be considered enrolled. The control group is not enrolled, and they do not receive our next step, which is creating a personalized training plan. So at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and move over some of our screen sharing here to have our programmers demonstrate creating a team, because the first step to this process is creating a team. So if you want to go ahead and, Chris, go on over to your, click on the, there you go.
You see everything?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Can you make that a little larger? that work?
Yes, that's great.
Okay. Okay, so we'll get started to create a team. So the team is where you can take all your enrolled customers and kind of put them together so you can manage and keep track and kind of follow that group of people. And we can get there by going to teams. The initial screen is the list of teams that exist. And depending on your security access and what regions you can see, we can see the name of the team, the region, how many team members, how many participants have been assigned. We can also filter depending on your security permissions. So if you have multiple regions, you can see just one region, and so it makes it a little easier to manage. We'll get started by creating a team. Again, depending on your security permissions, you select the region you want. Name our team, and we suggest to name it something pertinent. So if you're going to focus just on welding or just a group of people, or maybe this is just team one, the team name will help you recognize who you're working with. So once you select your region and your team name, click next. And this is going to bring back all the staff in your region that can be applied to this, or can be assigned to this team. We have set up some rules to kind of help the plan process, and that each team must have 3 members, and one must be a PM, and one must be an LWIA, and then the third person can be an additional PM or LWIA or adult educator or post-secondary. And you can put more than 3. So you can have a team of 10 or even more. So I'm going to pick a PM, an LWIA, and an employer. I'll click next. This next screen here is kind of our permission set. So as we'll walk you through the training plan after this, but in the training plan there's going to be a kind of sign-off feature, and we need to know who's required to sign off. Right now the requirement is that you need at least one person required to sign off. If you have multiple people on the team, they can sign off as well too, but we need at least one person say they definitely have to put their initials on this. So we have the expanded bridge, optional training, and technical training, and then the work-based learning, job openings and placements. And we just need to make sure one is selected for each section. If not, it'll give us an error message saying, hey, go ahead and you need to make sure to do this. We'll click save. And then our team has been created. November team created. Come back. Here's our November team. If we click edit, it has our 3 people that we put on there. We need to go back and change some permissions or decide that our employer is not going to sign off on the expanded bridge section. We can click edit, undo it, click update. This will tell me that at least one team member. So we need to assign someone else before we can undo that. So we'll make this so we are responsible for expanded bridge, update them, and then we'll come back here and undo the employer and then update. So that'll update our team. If we need to add additional, it'll come down below. It'll bring up who's in our region, who's available, and we can select that person, decide if they need to be responsible to sign off, click save, and we'll update our team. If we need to delete a team, it will also check to make sure that no participants have been assigned to that team. So we're just going to delete that. But I assume once these are initially set up, we shouldn't have to go back and delete that. Are there any questions or comments?
No, I just wanted to point out that Mike Baker did make a very good point and said that the third required member is a manufacturing subject matter expert, but it could be whether it's a post-secondary or some other area, regardless, just keep in mind that the third member needs to be a manufacturing subject person.
Okay.
Okay. Next. Okay. Did you want to go ahead and show us the creating a personalized training program?
Yep, and Ken's going to hop on for that.
Okay.
So once you have a customer and a team, you'll want to go to the enrolled area of the customers, and what you'll be able to do is any region that you are a part of, you'll be able to filter by that, filter by the teams that you're associated with, or we even let you use a customer, sort by customer name. And so what you'll see here is it looks both first and last name for the client. And then what you want to do is go over and click on the plan, and it'll take you to the training plan.
Ken, let's back up and let's take a customer who hasn't been assigned to a team.
Right.
So that CC tester.
Yep.
I'll go to. Just hit back.
Yep. So if you'll notice this person here, CC tester, Super ATIM, they do not have a team. So if you click on plan, when it goes to that user, it's actually going to come up and it's going to make you assign them to a team. So what you'll notice here is it's under the training and employment plan on the preview, but you still have to assign to a team. And then once you set the team, it's going to confirm that you're going to this team. And then one of the important things here is once you add this person to a team, they will not be able to be moved to another team. So confirm the team member. And then it's going to drop you back into the profile page, and you can go to the training and employment plan. And every time you go to the training and employment plan, the first place it's going to take you to a preview page that has each section of the employment plan and shows you anything that's been filled out. As you'll notice with this person, nothing is set up. So you can either go to the plan via these menu options up top, or each of the headings is actually a link to go to that plan area. So you can go to the career plan, and all of this data is actually copied over from their application. And so as you talk to them, if there are any changes that you want to make, you can make it here and update it. Also, then the plan start and end date should be entered for metrics we're keeping. And what you'll notice is if you ever try to go and update update any date, so that one's not. What it should do is it should show a error here saying you can't have the end date before the start date. The next step is the expanded bridge, and this is one of the first areas that you're going to be working with. And the start date and end date of step 1 and start date and end date of step 2 are important dates to put in. These are the dates where this has actually been started and when it actually ends. And these dates, the earliest start date and the latest end date will then be sent to IWDS to let them know that services can be started. The other thing on each of these areas is ELIAs and project managers will be able to update any area of the plan, anything on the plan, whereas any of the partners will only be able to do on-track and off-track and comments. So, for example, on step 1 here, you'd want to put in your start date and a potential end date, mark anything, select the target occupation, and then if you hit update, one of the things you're going to see is you'll see that that step successfully got updated. And the next step would be you can schedule any assessments that they have that you believe they should take, and then the date they're going to take it, and then you want to add that assessment. It'll tell you it's successfully been added, and then down the bottom you'll see the list of assessments. Also with the scheduled assessments, if you type in an other, you can put in your own assessment and a date, and what you'll notice is it says, you know, other and then the assessment date, so you know what you've selected. Also, as I said here, you can remove. We will confirm you want to remove it, and then it will actually be removed.
Okay, we have real quick, we have a question from Sarah, and she's asking about the start and end dates for, and just Sarah, just confirm that I'm correct, the step 1 and step 2. Step 1, I believe you could put not necessarily the start training dates, the dates you start working with them to help them with the identifying the jobs and so forth, and identifying the target occupation. The start date, these dates are especially important for step 1 and step 2 because we need them in order to provide that information to IWDS, because once they have those dates, once the step 1 and 2 has been started, then it will allow you to provide services, enroll the customer in services in IWDS. Oh, okay. Question, yes, great. Step 1 has happened in the past. Is that okay? Yes. And please, that's a very, very good question, because please do backdate it to when you started working with that person. So you can go back as early as, I believe, October 7th, because I think that's the first date, or maybe October 4th is the first date that we start actually putting people into random assignment. So please do backdate it. Does that answer your question? Okay, good. So go ahead. And then Jamie, I'll answer your question in just a little bit. Go ahead, Ken.
One of the other things that's available on each plan is the ability to add comments and view comments. If you want to add a comment, you click and you can add the comment. When you hit the add button, it actually pushes it back, and then you will notice that one comment's been added, and then you can also go and see a list of the comments. They will always be in reverse date order, so the newest comment will always be on the top. The next step is the optional training step. And all of these areas are completely free form. They do not lock down. Once you update them, they are allowed. You can go in and adjust them as needed. The only checks we do have are on the dates that they're not in reverse order, or so that the end date is not before the start date, and we will warn you about that. On this section, the on optional training, unlike the expanded bridge, you can fill this out because there's nothing, no list. You can fill anything, one to all the whole page out and update it as you need. So, for example, you can put in a start date and end date. The other important thing here is what the required field means. They could take the training, but if it's not required, then that's okay. But a required training means this is something that we are saying the user needs to take to complete, and this will go in and be a part of the dashboards that Jerome will talk about in a bit. So as you can see, and you do not have to put in a start date and end date if you do not know when they will be taking this training. This is just to let the group know that this is, you guys have said that this is required training for this person. So you can also go in, as you can see, and put in the dates as you want. And if I hit update, this whole page now has been successfully updated. The final area is technical training. And it is also an area where the whole section is updated at once. You can put in, once again, start date and end date for this section, whether or not they're on track or off track, and then the courses, certifications, or credentials you want them to take. Again, it has an other that when selected, you can put in additional information. You also select whether this is a course or a certification or credential, and then the planned date. And then when you update it, it will show down below. Once again, you can remove it. You will get a warning. Hit cancel. It will not remove it, but if you do, it removes it like before. Also, the comments all work the same across all the tabs. The final tab is a comments, which is a preview of all the comments that you've given for this user. And it's broken up into each section, expanded bridge, optional training, or technical training. And it will always be who put in the comment, the date they put it in, and then the comment itself. And then, as we showed before on the preview shows the whole thing, the whole plan as it is, including, not including comments. So there, either go to each section or go to the comments to see them as a whole. And you can see what has been selected for this customer, and then make any adjustments per section as needed. And I believe that is it. Everything, unless there are any any questions, and if not, then we'll let Jerome discuss the dashboards that will be based off of these training plans.
You can go ahead, and I was answering some of the questions in the chat pod, but I just wanted to make sure, well, as you can go ahead and navigate to the dashboard, but I wanted to make sure that everyone knows we are in the process of updating some of the roles for the team members, and the team members are the post-secondary, the employer, the adult education, and the OEM and project manager. And so the OEA, just want to stress this about the training plan, that the OEA and the project manager can edit the entire training plan, but the partners can only indicate on and off track and to add comments. Now, one of the things we want to stress about the training plan is that the training plan in Illinois WorkNet is exactly that. It's a plan. It can be flexible. It can be modified. You know, things happen. Life happens. So sometimes something might happen and they have to go off track. But then the idea is that we use this dashboard to take a look at this, to flag them and say, whoa, this person's off track. What do we need to help them get back on track? So it is the plan. The actuals and that type of information, those are entered into IWDS. But we know that the partners, not everybody has access to IWDS, but they can have access to the training plan. So that's a good tool that people can use to create comments and communicate with the case manager. And then the case manager can keep the personal IWDS only type comments available and enter those into IWDS directly. But they can also enter comments into the training plan, and so can the partners. So when the partners have that conversation and what is appropriate type comments and specifically for the training plan, instead of having two places for the case manager to look for that information, that information will populate into IWDS as well. So it's really the two systems working together. One is very for specific the IWDS, it's very, locked down and everything, and that's great. And this, again, just keep in mind, this is the plan. This is the place where everybody can communicate and help, personalize the training for the individual and make adjustments as needed. So I hope that's helpful. So go ahead, Drew.
Okay, so first we're going to look at the plan dashboard. There's various columns here. Service dates on target, service dates not met, on track, off track. This is per service. So if you have, overall you've got 2 people that have started and there are 7 services on track. The total people is people. The services are services, and one person can definitely have multiple services. So I just wanted to clear that up on the beginning. For total people, it's total people that have started the section. And the way the system determines it is it looks at the start date and it says, has the start date passed? If the start date has passed, then they've started the section. On target and not met, that looks at the end date, and in the future when we have service complete data, it will also look at that to make a determination as to whether the service is on track, is met, the service dates are met or not met. Services on track and off track, remember when you looked at the plan and you had those indicators that you could set on track or off track, all it does is look at whether they're on track or off track or not. This pulls directly from, you've got your expanded bridge section, you've got your optional training section, which is your traditional bridge, and then the technical training. One thing I wanted to mention here is the subtotal rows. People, it's going to count the number of people in that section. So here it's 3 people that are in the expanded bridge section. There are 5 services that are on track, or on target and on track. Just to kind of clarify that a little bit. Work-based learning and technical training, those are coming soon as well. Questions?
It doesn't look like anyone has any questions right now.
Okay. I believe next up, Chris is going to talk about job forecasts and job openings. Yep.
Okay, so we're going to go focus on the WBL/jobs tab here, and that's a work-based learning/jobs. And this is where we can create job forecasts and put job postings out there. The forecasts are kind of estimates given from employers that say, in the next couple of months, I'm looking to add several positions, and this is where we should start training and being focused. So I have 15 welding positions available, and I really need them to focus on welding. I'll kind of just start from the beginning on how we would do that. First, you have to have an employer in here. We obviously have test employers in here, but adding the employer allows us to put in their name, their website, phone numbers, contacts, and then assign a primary contact. I won't do that right now, but I'll show you an existing one. For example, Komatsu. So it has all their details, has a contact and a work site and a contact for that work site. Just so that, okay, the Peoria work site is going to need these jobs. Who can we contact and maybe find out a little more information about it? Okay, once the employer is set up, we can go to job forecast to set up for a forecast. Depending on your security, I have a little more than most users, but we can select the region it's going to be applicable to. There's 2 date ranges. The current date range from July 1st of 2013 to March 31st of 2014, and then the future one, which is another date range. From this, we're working with the employer Komatsu. Komatsu itself is a work site, so we'll just select that. There are multiple work sites. You'll see them in that drop-down. First, we'll select our occupational category. We'll go with Mechatronics, and from that, we'll have a list of occupation titles. If we change this, we'll change this drop-down, so it's based on the category that we are working with. So go back here, go electrical repair, and then we can say what type of employment. If it's going to be work-based learning type or a permanent employment type. And then we can indicate how many positions we're imagining will be available in that time range. First section here are job requirements. So we can say this is going to be electrical repair, and at the bare minimum, I need a high school or GED, past work ethics, and then any other certifications that are needed. If there's a custom one that we need to add, we can type it in and say pass physical test. And we can add it, and it will be added to our list. And then it will be added to our drop-down of something that might be reused over and over again. And if that comes up where they're using the same requirement over and over again, we can just make it a standard requirement that's always there. Down below are job competencies that have been identified for this category of Mechatronics. And these are all selected, so we have our core competencies that are just for this job category. And we can do the same thing as the job requirements. If we're missing a competency, we can add it to this forecast. Okay, click Save. And this will add the forecast. It'll send us back to our listings. We can go to forecasted openings. And then we have our electrical repair. And we could come back here and edit it or update it if needed. Next, we'll look at the job postings. The job postings are very similar to the forecast. Pretty much the same fields, except this is an actual job that's available that they want to advertise to ATIM customers. We can select how long this job post is going to be available, who the employer is, and then the work site. So that's why setting up the employer's information, employer initially is important, is because you can assign those work sites, and then that way we know where the job posting is going to be at. Come back and do Mechatronics. again, and we'll do electrical repair. And we can say it's a work-based learning opportunity or it's permanent employment. The feature that will be coming soon is, so this job posting will be displayed on, Natasha, did we lose it? Because
Yes, you did lose it.
Okay.
Do you need to reshare your screen or get back in? Did it kick you out of the
it just
webinar?
it says connection lost, network connectivity lost.
Okay.
Let's see if we can get back in.
While they're going ahead and getting back in, I didn't know if Mike, if you, Jamie had a question about, how are some of the other areas handling the job forecasting component?
Okay. Jamie, are you referring to the assessment of the demand by occupations or the work-based learning placement opportunities or the permanent employment placement opportunities? So your question is who's responsible for developing that information? Okay. For permanent employment, you need to be talking with your employers to see what placement opportunities they have or job postings coming up. We can import information or link to the IJL website. We also can get information direct from them. And then if you have an employer that is willing to interview our folks and potentially hire them, but really hasn't been involved in the process, they could provide that information to you and you could enter it in the system so that everyone in your region knows that this employer has this particular need coming up at this particular time.
Okay, Natasha, we're back online. Let us know if you can see our screen.
Okay, we can see your screen. So continue on.
Okay, so something that's not there and that will be coming shortly is, so these job postings will be on, in the future, will be on the customer's training plan, and it'll be based on the job category that they have expressed interest in, but will also be able to selectively select which customers will see this job posting. So if you have a group of people that just want to see this job posting, that feature will be in here soon. Or we can just say, show to all applicants in this target occupation. And like I said, that'll be coming in the near future here. So we can say how many openings we're going to have. And then we can, with job postings, you can establish an hourly wage, a job description, and then how to apply. So because each employer is different, we can put in a URL, or we can tell them that they need to call this phone number or give an email, but the instructions on how to apply can be inputted in there. And then like before, the job requirements, what's going to be in there, so we can kind of give the applicant an idea before they go to do this job what they're going to need, and then the competencies, just like the job forecast. So that will save, and then in the near future, those job postings will start displaying on the training plan for the customers, and that will be based on the target occupation they've selected.
So you can go ahead and demonstrate the work-based learning job dashboards.
Okay. So we actually have work-based learning job forecast and work-based learning job placement dash, two separate dashboards. What you entered in for job forecasts shows up in the work-based learning / job forecast dashboard. The permanent employment will be the work-based learning job placement dashboard. So you come in here and we've got some filtering, and you can select multiple filters, multiple things. So for those folks that are maybe in North Central and Central Illinois, you can select both of those and you would see both regions on your dashboard. I see here's North Central followed by Central. The default view is see the whole state. You can select multiple categories. If you select all on the occupation category, it's going to split it out and show mechatronics, machining, CNC, machining, general. It's going to show all the job categories just like you see down here. You see mechatronics, CNC, machining, general machining, welding, and logistics. You got your two date ranges. Employment type, you can have all the employment types, in which case it's going to lump all of the various work-based learning items into a single line on the dashboard and call it work-based learning. If you select this work-based learning, that's a shortcut for saying job shadowing, work experience, internships, and on the job. You can even break it all out so that you see all the, all the different work-based learning and permanent employment types. The job placement dashboard works almost exactly the same way. The only difference over here, besides the fact that it's looking at job postings as opposed to job forecasts, is that there's really not a date range for it, and we still need to get some actuals back from IWDS for how many of the job openings were filled, which then lets us calculate how many are left to fill and some other totals that you guys would be interested in. I know I went kind of fast. Any questions?
Nope, no questions so far, so thank you very much, Jerome. We'll go ahead and if you have any questions, I know Mike's going to talk about a couple of items. Let me go ahead and see if I'm not sure if my screen is updated to the next steps or not. And then, so some of the next steps would be to, go ahead and get started on creating your teams and completing starting the training plans. So for your training plans, I know that there are some people that have already started and they're already in the MSSC training, and that's fabulous. But like we mentioned before with Sarah, is to go ahead and enter in the original start dates when you started working with those customers. And as far as getting them into training and so forth, you can go ahead and backdate that. And then also go ahead and start entering the work-based learning and job forecasts and openings. Some of the things that we are currently working on, they're in the hopper and we're trying to get them out as soon as possible, is the job placement area that will be added to the personalized training and employment plan. So you can actually indicate, what their planned placement is. And Chris had mentioned a little bit about this because that's where the jobs will, you can indicate if you only want specific people to see it, or if everybody in that occupational area for their interests will be able to see it. So we're working on that, and we're also working on the Service Complete button for each of the personalized training and employment plan areas, as well as the links from to reports from the jobs dashboard as well as the training plan dashboard. So I want to go ahead and turn it over to Mike so he can answer some of those questions.
Okay, so thank you. Looks like there's a really good question about the use of staffing agencies, and this has come up in a couple of conversations, and I think we have found a good workaround for everyone to use under ATIM. Because mainly, the overall concept of ATIM is that we want to be demand-driven. So if you have employers that are comfortable using staffing agencies or placement agencies, part of our argument back to the national program is we need to be responsive to that. So a couple of ways to go about doing that. The best way is, if you think about it, staffing agencies have a decent amount of expertise in knowing what it is the employers need for particular positions. So that actually makes them a viable resource to be on your intake team to do the assessments to see, do these people actually meet the need. What you'd have to do, though, is be careful that they don't siphon off the good people and try to work with them independently. So you'd have to have some sort of written agreement with them that they are coming in as a partner, not as an opportunity for them to cream folks off of the applicants that come in and work with them independently. So, there's the potential to help our process with them, but there's also some risks involved too. So you have to gauge what kind of long-term relationship you have with them, or if they just came out of the woodwork and you don't know anything about them, you need to be very cautious. The other thing is that you could use them to broker placement opportunities for workplace learning, for like the work experience or the internships. More on the work-based learning. I mean, internship, usually you have college credit with that, so this really is more based toward the work-based learning or work experience side of it. But also, if a company says, I do all of my hiring through this particular agency, and I refuse to step outside that because this is something that I know, that I'm comfortable with, and if you guys can work with me on that, then I'm willing to participate, but I'm not going to step outside my comfort zone. If you get an employer like that, you can utilize the staffing agency to make that placement. The only caveat is that they cannot be on the placement agency payroll forever, or even for an extended amount of time. I know some places like to do that because they never really take full ownership of that employee. We can't meet them that far, but what we can do is say, we can get the person into your permanent placement on a temporary basis, funded through the placement agency, but eventually they have to come on to the employer's payroll. And the absolute limit on that is 90 days. Now, we would like it to be 30. Have them on the placement staff's payroll for a month. You're going to know by then if the person is a good risk or not, and is getting, is going to get the job or not. I mean, is going to understand it and perform well in it. So that's an opportunity to utilize any existing relationships that employers have with staffing agencies that can work under ATIM. So you just got to be careful, that you have something in writing that everybody understands what the rules are and what the expectations are. But if you have that, there's no reason that you can't use them. I would say that, though, however, we'd like as little money to go directly to a placement agency as possible. So, like, if we need to pay for the work experience, whatever we can run through the employer, then they could pay the placement agency would be preferable. Does that make sense? Any questions on that?
Okay, thank you. I don't see anybody typing, so. Oh, we do have, looks like Kathy's typing.
So I know that there is a staffing agency whose members on the board in LWIA 10. I know LWIA 19 has a staffing placement agency on their board. So, those organizations, are longtime partners of the WIA system already, and they get it and they understand. Those folks are pretty low risk, and we should be able to find a way to incorporate what the employers say they need as a way to utilize the placement agency as a conduit to helping us implement the program. But if somebody comes to you out of the blue and no one's ever heard of them before, or, you just got to be careful on folks that you aren't already a partner with.
We also have Dee with us, Dee Reinhardt, so she's been taking some notes. So let me just see if these answer Kathy's question. Just copied them.
Kathy, I don't think I could say that again the same exact way if my life depended on it. Okay. Ideally, we'd like as much of the payment as possible to run through the employer. So the employer could then pay for the work experience or the salary to the placement agency. So they'll get their money, but we would prefer that the money go to the employer. And again, we're talking about the salary involved here. I mean, if there are placement fees or other things on top of that are, profit added for the placement agency, we understand that that is their prerogative to charge that. They're a private sector employer themselves, so they expect to make a profit, and we don't begrudge them that right to make a profit. But the employer needs to pay any extraneous stuff like that. I mean, we're picking up the cost of the salary, either on the OJT side or on the work experience side. So, the employer needs to have some skin in the game as well. So if there are any additional fees on top of that at this point, the employer should cover that. We're looking to see if we have any wiggle room to pay some of those fees. But at this point, the call is we need to be cautious and err on the side of safety. So, we're up for paying the salary portion of any of that out of ATIM, but any fees or additional markup profit on top of that, if the placement agency insists on including that kind of charge as part of the process, the employer needs to cover that piece. And they're still coming out ahead. So, I mean, everybody wins in that scenario.
Yeah, it looks like we have another question coming in from David.
And employees of laid off workers. Okay, that's a big question, and it's a good question. What you have to look at, first of all, is are you going into a union shop or not? If it is a union shop, then you have to make sure that you are not running afoul of any labor agreements that are in place. So you need to work with both the employer and the bargaining unit that is in play at that work site to make sure that you're not in violation of any labor agreement. Okay. And just because the company has a laid off worker, what you have to be mindful of is, are you placing someone into a position that does have a layoff that is in play, or someone is on a recall list to come back for that position. But say a company has 3 different production lines and they've laid off people on one production line and you're hiring in another, you shouldn't really have to worry about that unless there's some bargaining unit stipulations that come into play. But what you have to be mindful of is, are you replacing somebody that has just been laid off very recently, or is on the callback list? Because during the Great Recession, there were very few employers that didn't have some kind of layoff. So and the folks that were laid off may have moved on to other jobs, or may have decided to retire, and there's really no likelihood of the individuals that were laid off coming back to that job that they had before. So you have to be careful with it, but as long as you do your due diligence on it, you'll be fine. Yeah, if you look out on WorkNet on the ATIM site, we have a template for an OJT contract that has all of the information in it, and I'm very I'm pretty certain that sort of stipulation or attestation is part of that contract already. If it's not, we should make it part of it, but I'm pretty sure it's there already. So we'll check that and make sure. Good. Could union apprenticeship programs play a part in ATIM? No reason why they can if you can get all the actors to partner up and work on it. The thing you've got to be mindful of is, how many folks do you have in your area that are already sitting on the bench waiting for work orders? We don't want to train folks for jobs if they're going to go to the back of a very, very long line. But if you don't have that many people on the bench in your area, there is no reason not to use an apprenticeship program if it can be completed in a timely fashion.
Okay, then, Mike, I didn't know if you wanted to go ahead and take a look at Jamie's question about the third member of the team.
Oh, sure. That is really up to the employer and the WIA staff and to some extent the WorkNet staff. I really don't have a problem with an employer designating a team of 2 or 3 or 4 individuals to take part in this and sharing an account if necessary. I would prefer that each individual have their own, then you know exactly who's on each team. But for the intake process, we need to have somebody that's outside of all the other systems, logging in to tell us what was done. Because remember, this part of the program design is answering the knock or answering the complaint from the employers, is that people come to them after training that really aren't qualified or should never have been put in manufacturing training anyway. So we're trying to address that by giving them the opportunity to help us figure out who is eligible for this program, and we're going to see if that makes a difference. So we need to be able to demonstrate that some subject matter expert played a role in determining that an individual was allowed into the program. So if a subject matter expert is just passing information on to the LWIA and then they're entering the data, we can't really prove that anybody other than the WIA case manager looked at the file and made the eligibility determination. So we have to be able to demonstrate that somebody outside of our system with subject matter expertise in manufacturing played a role in the eligibility determination. Does that make sense?
And so for them, the question too, should every partner have an account? You had touched on this with I guess they could share an account. We don't encourage that, but they need to have an Illinois WorkNet account because that's how we give them access to the tools.
Right. Let me say that more clearly, and then you guys can put this in writing, because I want to make sure that no one takes this and runs with it inappropriately. The point is that each person should have their own account and should be signing in. However, if you have an employer that says, that is a little bit too much and I'm not going to participate at all, if giving them the option to have a team account and the flexibility to move people in and out of teams, but at least stay involved. If it's that or nothing, I would rather have that than nothing, but I would much rather have each person have their own account than the team account approach. So Mike, I guess the question to the WorkNet staff is, what flexibility can we give the employer if say John Smith has an account and is on a team, but for some reason he gets a huge project and no longer can devote time to the team, can another person from that employer be switched out for him and added to that team? My understanding is that can be done relatively easily, but I want to confirm with you guys that
Right, all they really need is to have a business account on Illinois WorkNet, and then we can give them access. So, if they wanted to share a username and password, I guess they could, but it's really anybody, they can.
Conferencing service. You are joining the meeting.
how much of a rigmarole is that for our team staff that are managing the team members to switch people in and out as needed as they go through the process?
It's a good question because that also goes back to how are you going to set up your teams, to have access to the personalized training and employment plans. So, if you just had one one employer maybe for a particular team, then you would easily know, which team they're on, and you can just update and edit that particular team. It just needs to be thought of on how they want to handle it for their area.
Well, I would encourage everyone to have each member have their own ID and then switch them out as needed. But if an employer just flat out refuses that, we will try to find a way to work. Well, there is a way to address that. That's just not the preferred way to do it.
And there had been some questions previously about, what can employers see and what can they not see. We are working on that, updating those, the access levels. And if I didn't mention it earlier, an employer would be able to see an applicant, just like they would complete an application with their work history and the first name, but they do not have visibility of any of the contact information. And then they would see the information that they would need to see in order to do eligibility, to see if they were, eligible for the program. But then after that, they do not have visibility of the drug test results or any of that type of personal information related specifically to that person. So if that was a concern for any people that are involving their employers.
Right, and that's on the front end. On the back end, if an employer is interested in somebody that's in training for a work-based learning opportunity or to hire permanently, they're going to see information. They're going to see the credentials and the experience and any work-based learning that they got through the program in like a portfolio. So, they would be able to see some information about them on that to help set up placements. But again, it's limited to what they need to know to make a decision.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you joining us today. Dee just pointed out that we had one question from David. Clarification needed. Is team and plan only available after WIA eligibility, suitability, and randomization? Yes. So the team and the plan is only available for an individual who has gone through the eligibility process and random assignment. And the key there is that the only people that get the plan are those that are in the treatment group, or they are a veteran. So veterans have priority of service, so that they would be included into the program. They, however, are not included in the study, but those that have the treatment are in the treatment group. They do obviously get the plan. So I believe that answers all of the questions. Thank you, everyone. So we have Mike, Dee, Chris, Ken, everyone that helped out today. And one more question, sorry. We wish we had comment in case note options early in the process. We can see. Okay. Okay, dope. So we'll have the comment section for the eligibility piece.
So, David, what functionality does that add? I mean, how would you use that, and how would the team use that? I think I know, but I want to make sure I understand what you're getting at. Okay,
With the
David,
new,
great point.
okay, sorry. Okay, we do have in the release that is going out tonight, what you see right now is the edit server that has all the test information in here. And I went to customers. Let me go back here just a minute. Customers, we have our intake, so they're not enrolled yet. I'm going to look at the person that I can tell has had something done with them in IWDS, so so we can take a look at here, and you can see that we have a place where you can add a comment. So don't know if that's a section that would be helpful. And then this is a person that we have that's not assigned yet, but you can still add a comment. So maybe you could put in here, I called this person and they never showed up for training or orientation or something like that. You can put those notes in there. And that's with the new release that's going out tonight. Okay, yes, I can show you how again. This isn't live yet. It's going out tonight. And so I log into my ATIM tools. I go to my customers. I have my intake and enrolled. You can add the comments in the training plan. That would be in your enrolled section. But right now I'm in intake. I can pick any of my people click on eligibility. And you'll see that we have add new comments. So I can type my comment here, add it, and then you'll be able to see your LWIA people will be able to see your comments. Correct. You have not had that option yet. Okay. Can the other LWIA see the comment? So the people for your region, whatever region, I know there are some LWIAs that have access to multiple regions. So the LWIA people for your region or whatever region you have access to, that you'll be able to see their comments. Yes. The comments that are entered into the ATIM tool is not necessary. I don't know about IWDS.
Natasha, this is Jim. Can I speak for a second?
Sure.
Yeah. The one you just demonstrated, that client had TABE scores, which meant a case manager had been working with that person, and all the case note features within IWDS are available for any of those clients. I think what they're speaking about is before they've been picked off the search ATIM customer, they're wanting to have a place that they can document something. Will that comment section be available for that?
Yeah. If you look on the screen right now, I selected a person that didn't have anything. They have not assigned, must be WIA eligible before suitability can be determined. And there's the comment section.
Okay, because that's what will help them, I think, a lot, because those are the people that they had no place that they could document.
And this is Mike. I mean, David raises a very key point, is that it is incredibly important for members of the LWIA staffs to stay in communication about the clients as they go through the client flow, especially when it comes time to place people into work-based learning or permanent employment. We know we're probably going to have multiple people that would be good for the same placements. So you got to make sure you're working together to coordinate. And that's what the whole idea of the dashboard is about, is so that you can see the number of folks that are coming through at any given time and what point they are in the process. So you know that if you've got 10 people coming through, you need to be lining up that equivalent or more, if possible, of placement opportunities so that you've got everything in alignment and people can flow through as smoothly as possible. But that inter-LWIA staff communication, even inter-region communication, where you've got employers that are right on the border that could take someone from either place, you got to be very cognizant and over-communicate with each other to make sure that if you got your eye on a particular placement, you find a way to make sure everyone knows that hey, you've got a person in line for that. So you can keep it coordinated to the fullest extent possible.
Hey, I don't see any other questions coming in, so thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, you can send them to info@onlyworknet, or you can also go to the ATIM guide, and there is a section for FAQ. And you can simply click here. If you don't already see your question and answer, you can submit your answer via FAQ. So thank you, everyone, and you have a great afternoon. Oh, go ahead.
Well, hold on. There are a couple folks typing in questions. Just want to make sure that's real or not. Matt Jones was typing. I don't know if he changed his mind or not. Matt's back.